Okay, here we have a clip by Amala Ekponubi. And I just between us, I think that she's probably Ethiopian or Ethiopian cross or something like that. I don't know too much. I've seen a lot of her shorts and her other videos, and she seems to have a rational head on her. But here she's calling out something on a clip that it's only about 5 minutes long, but it explains her view on it and a lot of others, of course. But the name of the clip is apparently every historical figure was black clip. And let's just get into this.
Now we're going to get into a ridiculous claim.
What do you mean by that?
That a bunch of historical figures that we all know to be white, European, that they're black. Here we go. Let's listen to this guy's rant.
The Knights, why do you think they call them Knights? Because they were dark as night. They were dark. Beethoven was a black man. King James was a black man. Right. Mozart was a black man.
I even saw that in Hollywood, how they make cowboys all white when they're actually black.
Yes, there you go. There you go. So they paint over our images like Christ, like Moses, like it's called iconoclasm. It is literally something that they did.
I'm glad that one was short and sweet. Let's get into the different names listed there. Mozart.
Yeah, there's a whole list here. I believe a few years ago I went through a list. I went through a few of them. Each one had things connected onto it, and then there was another one where they tried to claim everybody, and we already knew that was a joke, so it just went from there. But let's go with her first commentary on this. By the way, the black person that was speaking before was up in front of a group and had a PA system going on, and he was wearing some garb that makes him look like a new Hebrew Israelite, and he tried to mention Christ and Moses and stuff. So this is definitely a thick part of the we-wasery, where we don't want to claim we were ourselves, but we was everybody but ourselves in some way. Mozart, let's get into this.
No historical evidence of Mozart being black. Beethoven, no historical evidence of him being black. Although for Mozart, they are making that new Amadeus TV series where he's Asian apparently now, because we all love a little bit of revisionist history that's just shaped by fiction again.
Yeah, don't you love it whenever they take historical figures out of Caucasian history? Apparently this is the only pond that they can dwell from because of their rich history, and so they just try to revision it. And even in fairy tales and ideas such as mermaids and concept of people that are not known for swimming at all get WeWas mermaids. And it's an incredible propping up that's going on that's never happened to any people ever in history, but yet you don't hear them bitching about it too much. Some people have already seen it years ago. Some people said it was, okay, that's enough. That's too much. Okay, that's enough. Well, and then they were like, oh yeah? Well, look at this. And they went crazy. Remember Cleopatra? She's going to get into that in a minute and so on too. But none of these figures, of course, were black. And they're trying to pull off all kinds of things. I saw a recent deal on the BBC where they're all cuckery like this idea. And they were literally saying that not even in the burial ground that they were trying to say was all woo-woo, but a few miles away, they had found a burial ground where there were two people that might have been mixed, and therefore that means we were all black somehow. Not that there was an accidental what the hell happened here. And they also tried to predate it 700 years earlier than what it actually was. And it was just a disgusting mess. I mean, a few videos came about this, and I was going to do my own series on it. And I was like, some of these things are just so sickening, it's stupid. Let's continue with Amala. No, not Kamala. Let's make that clear. Very different. Although she has a laugh, it's not at all like the cackling thing. But yes, she does have a laugh. Let's go.
Okay, King James, absolutely no evidence. Knights. He claims that knights were black because the word knight, which starts with a K-N, okay, is Knights. It's just like night. And the night is dark, therefore knights are black. That's why they called them knights.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
I've heard.
So I've heard all kinds of things. There was this idiot that was on years ago, and he was like, knights were nappy. Oh, yeah. And his whole thing was that what she said, where nights means nighttime, and it's not at all. You know, connive starts with a K too, but we're what? You know? So of course they love the chivalry and things and the incredible things that the Knights did, and the Knights Templar and all that, and they want to claim they were part of that too. They weren't themselves a pre-Neolithic hunter-gatherer people that were primitive and didn't even know the rest of the world really existed from the Congo area. They definitely don't want to believe in that narrative, which is what all the world knows. They want to believe they were somebody else, and so they generally are going to reach out and poke at people like melanated people, like Amala, if she is Ethiopian, and they say Ethiopians, therefore we. And of course, I think she's made a commentary on we isn't really we, is it? It's just you trying to embrace anybody that's darker than a sheet of paper. And a lot of these people do not like this because they've got all this thing in Ethiopians, and apparently they were in somebody that was like you said da-da-da-da. They're like, no, that's them, and they're not even related to us. They just keep pointing at us because they don't have anything that they want to talk about at all. So they just think it's okay modern day, especially because all the movies and stuff, the great idea to just claim that everybody was black, and that's supposed to be okay and not look like clowns on the world stage.
So we're the clowns on the world stage. Is it funny or sad? We need to go back.
Hybrid now. Asala man. Oldest modern form. 4400 BC. Hangs out at gas stations.
Yeah, let's continue.
Like this made before, but there are a group of leftists that believe that the term good morning is actually racist, that it comes from olden times during slavery, and that slave masters would say good morning to their slaves, not to symbolize, good morning as in the time of day, but mourning as in the loss of a loved one. They claim that slave masters would say this to slaves after they've killed one of the slaves, as in have a good morning of the loss of the slave that I've killed. Is there any basis for this? Absolutely not, but the lie is told nonetheless, just like...
So, here's a part of the victim squad where they want to claim this is going on, and of course in their minds, and it easily happens, they want them to believe that yes, this was happening, and it was happening to everybody, and it was happening every day. And so they wouldn't have run out of slaves with this happening or anything. And of course, people, this didn't happen. These people paid far too much money for these slaves. They actually literally taught them things that they did not know. The first thing we were going on is agriculture, and they weren't even allowed to do most of that. They were just to pick the eventual crop off of it and take the bolls off of cotton plants and everything, and didn't even do that well and became outdated farm equipment. But this issue here of wanting to claim things that are a victim and why do you did this to me, less than 5% of the population of the South in America were slave owners. And you don't want to know who most of those were, and so on too, and also what Democratic Party had to do with it, and all kinds of other things that you don't want to talk about, and yet they still were Democrat. It's hilariously sad. It's a clown on parade. It's just so self-exposing, constantly, every moment that you could get a chance out of, and you can't because they just can't understand civilization quite and the way that the rest of the world is. And the screwed uppest thing is that they're around them constantly. Therefore, they have this envy and jealousy, and then they don't know what to do because it's not a cargo cult behind a fence talking about some Vance people that showed up in World War II, and they started worshiping them and stuff. These people are right in front of them, so they start making up silly little things. And of course, most of it, in fact, all of it, is extremely self-exposing. Oh, and there's something that could be done, but we don't even want to go there now. We're still at the point of trying to realize just how foolish all this is. Let's continue. We were at good morning. By the way, good morning comes from Old English and stuff, way before any of that and everything, and Guten Morgen in German and everything, and it has nothing to do with them whatsoever. But they want to try to abscond things and everything, like they've absconded the Latin word for the color black, because that's all the N-word ever was. But they act like they have power now that they can have the name of a crayon. Any Latin country you go to and you buy Crayolas, black has got that same word on it. Oh my God. The horror of black.
No basis for knights being called knights because they are black as the night. But okay. Now a guy chimes in and also says, yo, cowboys! Cowboys were also all black. Now there actually were black cowboys. There's a ton of historical evidence for that. I'm not sure what he's insinuating by saying that they've made them all white. I've actually not heard that. In fact, I've heard quite the opposite, that there were white and black cowboys.
Yeah, and there's even been movies and stuff done. Of course, it's overglorified. But of course, we had Clint Eastwood and stuff, so they want their own Clint Eastwood kind of thing, and Django and all these type of things. You know, something come out of that. But a lot of people, whenever they see that, it's a parody. In fact, that was drawn as a parody back with Mel Brooks and Blazing Saddles and so on and everything, and through that. But there are black movies and everything, and of course, this is another pandering situation that has been done for them to put them in the light of all kinds of things that they weren't normally. I mean, sure, there were black cowboys. Okay, let's get a percentage. Oh, you don't want that because it would verify that it was probably less than 1%. Or, oh, in certain places, there were a few black cowboys, especially whenever they were running away west and stuff. But, and of course, those places weren't even really situated. That's why they call it the Wild West. But they like that idea. I mean, my dad loved cowboys and Indians and the whole idea of that, you know, and back in that day and that time and everything and things about it, and read all kinds of books about it, and was really, you know, a flavor. I talked to him about him being in the wrong time a little bit, but he's just somebody who was nostalgic and far enough away from it that it had that effect. Just like I do with a lot of old cultures and things that I do videos about too. It's far enough away that it's almost just wow. It's like studying something on another planet in effect, because things were so different if you can get totally into it. But there were black movies, cowboys and stuff, and so.
I'm liking with the blam blams.
I don't know, guys. But we go through this endless cycle of black people, black leftists trying to just reclaim things all the time because they feel like they've been slighted throughout human history, and that's not how it works. We see it with things like Cleopatra. You saw that Netflix documentary is what they're calling it, where they made Cleopatra black. Make that make sense.
You can't make it make sense, and it was a joke when it came out. And she kind of showed you in her vocals there where what seems odd about that is that Cleopatra, they call it a documentary, where that's supposed to have some basis in fact and all kinds of things curled up in behind it, and all we really have is just literal jealousy. They like that name. I've actually heard that from quite a few, just like the lady claimed, I don't care what they say, my grandmama told me that we was Egyptians, and WeWas Cleopatra, effectively not even understanding that by the time of Cleopatra, that was Macedonian Greeks. But then they want to claim they were the Egyptians, at least in the earliest of times, and then that got taken over by Whitey. But you can find pre-dynastic blonde-haired Ghibelline mummies they call ginger and things, and all the way through, and the genetics showing it, and they have connections to ones from the past. And of course, lineages were kept like a king, and their sons and their sons' sons and sons' sons, and whenever there was a bifurcation that went from that, it was still related people, and then his uncle took over and so on, and that's the next dynasty, and they went through that kind of where it went those things. So there's no black people in any way sneaking into this idea. Oh, one snuck in. It's hilarious whenever they try to point out this guy, or they'll show you a Ka statue of Mentuhotep, which has been run into the ground. There's 20 other pictures of him on the wall, and he's not drawn as black, but that's a Ka statue. And if you want to find out something about Egypt, you probably should learn about it before you start spouting WeWas. And what's hilariously sad is that people have realized a long time ago, they went into it deep to get all these pictures here, so they saw the truth, and then they're omitting it. Yeah, it's black Photoshop. And so they want to claim anything, but it gets worse. They continue claims, and let's look at a few more.
Claims that Queen Charlotte was black, and this is outside of the whole fictitious Bridgerton universe where she was made black. There are actual claims that people believe that Queen Charlotte was black. She wasn't. And don't get me wrong, there are instances.
You know, there are lineages that go to all these people, but they somehow want to say some of them snuck in somehow. Just like you look at Mentuhotep I was talking about in Egypt, and you go, well, this is what led up to him. And nobody's sneaking in somehow. Oh, they might have had a black concubine. Well, that would have been a mulatto, and then just suddenly out of that. But hold on, you were WeWas, and now all of a sudden you're saying there might have been one that was a mulatto or something, and it just falls apart for you. By the way, during this whole WeWas Egyptian times, people realized that Congoids never even knew Egypt existed and aren't even related to the Nubians you're trying to inject as a melanated people somehow into these people that have been proven by so many methods and basically all of science and genetics of the fact that they were Caucasians. And whenever it came out with all these papers, they said the current population no longer has a connection to the ancient genetics with the way our computers run. And it says the difference of that is that sub-Saharan admix shows up in post-Roman times. What? Yeah, so what you're trying to claim is exactly the opposite. Your genetics didn't show up till after it was all over. You showed up at the party the next day and no one was there. But yet the people of the Congo didn't even know that existed. There was just some that finally showed up. And see, they constantly are trying to interject black people into situations. If they find one, then black people say, we was. That we were not ourselves. We were, and then they point towards any way as far away from themselves as possible, like they're trying to run away from themselves. It's actually disgusting, and gotten so point of disgusting, it turned into a joke, and now it's just all of the above, and so self-exposing, and they're caught up in it so bad they can't even slow down, much less quit. They're in the middle of claiming everybody. Do you have your bingo cards handy for today's entree here? For the only thing that's never been claimed so far that we have and people have on their bingo cards is WeWas Eskimos. But let's continue.
Black people have been involved historically, and they haven't gotten their credit, or they haven't gotten the recognition for the involvement that they have, or it's been somewhat overlooked. And I get it, but that does not mean you go through all of human history and look at anything that's white or European and you go, you know what, those people were actually black, when you have no support for that claim. But this is what you get when you teach a generation of black people that everybody who's white or European is completely out to get them, is out to erase them, that they will do it in the future, they are doing it presently, and they have done it in the past. Then you get...
And I was trying to have this conversation that she was just speaking out with Chefrin when we were on Chief X's channel, and I started off wrong, but I wanted to go ahead and get somewhere so we could talk. And so I started off explaining to him that they've been trained to actually hate white people, and there's this whole thing, and believe me, I didn't get past trained, and he started talking over me, and then there was no possibility I was having a conversation with him. It was hilarious, and Chief X was somewhere caught between, embarrassed over the fact that they act like that, and we knew it, and him and I had talked about it on the phone, and that was what was going to happen prior to me coming on and trying to have a conversation. Yeah, and so it was an impossibility. It was a joke. But regardless of that, and I made 6 videos about the whole thing and everything because I just can't shut up. Regardless of that fact, it's a mental problem that these people have where they want to take somebody else's history and try to claim it as their own. And what it sounds like to everybody who's watching from a third person's point of view or perspective is that anything they hear was cool must have been black. It couldn't have been those incredible Caucasian spacemen that graded up in the high 90% of everything that's in front of us right now. Even Asians have done that way. We don't see them wearing wooden shoes and sitting on the floor while they eat in paper houses that are probably about 2 stories at best. Whenever you look at Tokyo and all these things, they've turned towards the Western world and trying to mimic it, and their industries are based upon it with their cars and computers and things like that. And I've heard people even think that they had something to do with the invention of anything like that. No, they're just creating it. They're industrious that way. And see, that's different, but they're much more acceptable of a people. So looking at the 3 races of mankind, the Mongoloids type or Orientals, and then the Caucasian type of people that were all across the ancient world and in the new world now, and then we have these black people basically looked at as being sub-Saharan. And at one time we were including the people of most southern India and Australian Aborigines into that idea, and the Negritos too, with a concept, because there were people at that time, and of course it's all racist now, but they were actually just realizing things. You see, it's actually in the human mind to realize things, and they noticed that everywhere they went there was a dark melanated people. They were all primitive type people and not well off. That just as an example, there's none of them here that have actually done anything that's in a modern situation that stands up to anything anybody else has done. And oh boy, you tried to have that conversation nowadays, people would try to hang you in the middle of nodding their head yes. It's hilariously sad, and it's the state of what the world is in today, with really trying to pander so hard. It's like you have this belief that during your generation that everything's going to change because you pander enough, and it's not taking people that weren't normally to be together and trying to force it into something that's not working out. In fact, it's not been working out through the whole way, but yet you're still trying to force it in a way to try to justify it so you can pander and get those points, which somehow, I don't know how they accrue them up on a card or how this works, but if you get enough pander points, something nice happens. All you have to do is keep going, aw.
People who are looking through human history and thinking, you know what, that person probably was black. I'm just going to rewrite that and then explain that to other people because it makes sense, because that's what white people do. White people erase black people, right? Never mind the fact that we have paintings, historical accounts, photographs in many instances of these individuals that they're talking about, which,
it clearly shows that they have a problem and an issue with that, but do they feel like, well, you did that, so I get to do that? Look, life's not fair with any of the things you're trying to pull off and mentally here, but what are you trying to say? That's what white people did. No, nobody took your history away. Nobody took away the history of dung huts and cannibalism and tribalism, where you kept capturing each other and stuff, and before the white man even showed up in your area, you know. And if you go back to past 4400 BC, those people weren't even admixed yet, and it seems they were still a primitive people that looks a whole lot more like Lucy and less even like a human being or a Homo sapiens, let's just say. And that's so recent. And that form that we're talking about prior to 4400 BC, Acellar man, is actually something that looks very hominid-like and only goes back to 9100 BC at Iho Aleru, and doesn't go any farther past than that. There's no finding of it, and that's what's hooked up to these people that are trying to point around and making all kinds of claims, which a lot of which, of course, come from things that predate themselves even becoming a apparent human hominid hybrid cross. Let's continue.
Really indicates a lack of blackness. And not just a lack of blackness. That's a funny phrasing. They were white, and it's okay. And what's interesting is that these individuals, by all accounts, hate white people. They are constantly talking about white people, bringing down white people, but then they want to turn around and claim historical figures that were white. They want to claim bits of white culture. Then they turn right back around to white people and claim that those white people have no culture, that they've imprinted nothing upon society and nothing upon civilization. Make it make sense. Do white people...
Well, we're making it make sense. They're projecting. They're looking at themselves in the mirror and saying, I apparently have done nothing. I do this, I do that, and so I'm going to say that about you as I'm in the middle of trying to lie and steal part of it over here. And like there's some kind of negroid magician here. Pay no attention to the man behind the screen, for I'm about to steal your history because we don't like ours. It's so self-exposing. It's not even funny anymore. And the fatigue is real.
Do white people have no culture, or do white people have a culture that you want? And that's specifically to the guy in this video. Please answer that question. Now we're going to get into a ridiculous claim.
Yeah, a lot of these claims are ridiculous. And people would have a hard time being able to say, in a modern day, oh yeah, you believe this could happen with this instant cargo cult situation, but it's gone on now. And there are separate cults which believe that they were the people of the Bible, that it wasn't the Caucasians that brought it to them and made it one of the first things they ever learned how to read. Yeah, and which apparently has caused a lot of problems and everything, and they like it so much that they do what the book says not to do, and then they covet.
Never mentioned, y'all. Unknown, covetous, lying, bearing false witness, hell awaits.
And then they lie, and then they bear false witness, and sometimes much worse on the Ten Commandments of lists and everything, and here you are going to go to hell by your own command. And of course, I did a recent video which was funnily called Ham and Cheese. And so we flipped a coin on that, and Twerking Gorilla in pink hair had won.
Yo, big gorilla in the spot, fur black and thick, rocking a hot pink wig, looking extra slick. Beauty popping, dropping low tower, game on fleek. Jungle turn club, whole zoo going free. Pink strands flying as he shakes that thing. King Kong tower master, bow down to the bang.
And so we had to go with cheese first, and so we went with cheddar cheese. But then there's Cheddar Man, which is attached to that, and the findings about that, and now people had not even agreed on that whatsoever, but black people instantly started pointing because he might have been melanated, a little darker than her even, where in reality, once he got suntanned and everything, he'd be about as dark as she is. And I did a video showing that and everything, and basically what he would have actually looked like compared to the mahogany shoe polish he put on it, but it's too late. blacks are already trying to claim we wasn't ourselves. We were you, and it's disgusting. And then the other part was the one of ham and cheese, and ham of the Bible, and how blacks want to believe that they were actually the product of a curse somehow in a book full of mythology that's only about Caucasians, by the way.
There's only one people mentioned in this book, no Orientals or subprims at all, ever. It's been proven.
And even Noah landed in the Caucasus Mountains. I mean, it doesn't get any more clear whenever they don't talk about Orientals or Islanders or anyone else. But you've got to shoehorn in black people. In fact, they're wanting that pander right there where you'll try to lie to them. And there are, believe it or not, a few denominations which will try to put in a black people in some position whatsoever and say there was somebody who was melanated to show up. Of course, it's not Congoids at all, but instantly they latch onto that and they're like, aha, we weren't ourselves. We were all this one guy you're lying about. That's great. And of course, if there ever was a ham like that, he would have admixed himself out of existence and you couldn't even see it anymore. But
Ham is not black. No one in that book is. Are you covetous?
That's not the point. The point is all of Noah's kids would have all had the same genetics. It's not a true and rational story. There were things that went on during that time in the world that shows there wasn't a flood. All these other people lived before, during, and after it without it. It was a local flood in the Sumerian area. And I've done videos about that showing it. But so it's funny. You're trying to claim, again, mythology or something. We was Little Mermaids and shit. And they're really, really mad about it. And they're really, really certain on their lies. And their lies are so true to them. And nobody's calling them out about it and checking up. And that's perhaps why I do some of these videos that I do. Because they jumped on my videos where I said nothing about black people in any of my videos for years. But I did one about the ancient Egyptians, showing you the earliest dynasties not only had people that were blue-eyed and blonde-haired and red-haired and things that were mixed in with it to a slight degree. It wasn't all of them, and I'm definitely not trying to say it was all of them, but it was there. And instantly black people jumped in and said, oh, they were black. And I go, well, I'm showing that they weren't, but I'm going to look real, real hard, and nope, definitely not. There is these Nubians. Now, they're not related to Congoids. Are you trying to claim that? Oh, that was we too. Okay, so we was everybody. It eventually got to the point of it was disgusting, and then they wouldn't leave me alone. Any other videos I had coming up about anything in history and stuff, and they were just jumping on there and running me into the ground about anything that they thought they could talk about. It was hilarious. Then they decided to give me a list of, I think it started with 32 things that I had to prove, and if I couldn't prove it, that means the Congoids used to be the ancient Egyptians. Like here's a bartering chip. And so I made a few videos, and I believe the third video in, they realized they had nothing to go on, and they all disappeared except for one guy, which hung on like a leech for hundreds of videos, and he got every video he would come on, not about that video at all whatsoever. He would just come on spouting a new lie. And he got debunked, and he got the world record that I knew of for debunks. It got up in the 350 range. I lost count. And and by the way, he got debunked so bad it was just disgusting, and all my regulars would be like, here he is again and stuff, and it's just we're running with the ground. So he thought he'd be secret and change his name, but he jumped on the next video and started saying the same crap with a new name, and everybody figured it out and then ran him into the ground again. It's just hilarious, and he's still running around with his Afrocentric crap, trying to prove something that everybody knows never existed. So anyhow, I appreciate her candor during this whole thing. Amala here, not to be confused with Kamala, is, a great girl, got a great personality, fantastic laugh instead of a cackle like Kamala. And great smile, whatever. And she seems to be fighting against that's not right. That's not right either. That's not right. And what people are seeing. And I haven't found her with a black fatigue video yet, but she's just primed for it. So we have that effect too. Anyhow, guys, that's about it on this one, and we'll continue on to the next clown show that comes to a town near you. It's a traveling circus of It's There All the Time. Weren't you aware?
This happened in 4400 BC. I'm recently admixed with Eurasian genetics. I was a hominid named Asalar Man. I still carry 19% of my ghost hominid DNA. And now, I'm Gloctavius in Baltimore.
We was not us, y'all see? YT food stamps. What is Hungary? I envy you.
Yes, all North Africa are always Caucasians, including Egypt. Do you need a tissue? How about a boat back?
So are the clowns on the world stage. Is it funny or sad? We need to go back.
Yo, Santa in the snow with the flow so vicious, packing up gifts like plates full of dishes. Hey. Reindeer squad in the back, all flicking their switches, hands in the air cause we granting your wishes. It's a white Christmas, even at night Christmas.
They will all have to go back. There is too great a difference.
In the Bahamas. Did he just poke him in the beehole? He did it again!
Focus. Breathe. When you're ready, hit straight through it. You got this. Whoa!